Happy 2025, everybody. Welcome back to CI Chit Chat. It is good to be back. I've missed you all. We took a couple weeks off there with the holidays, which was great. But there is a lot to talk about, a lot of questions that have come in that I need to get to. And this is going to be a huge, huge year of discussing carbon intensity, 45Z. So lots to discuss here. So I'm just going to jump in. CI, carbon intensity. We've been talking a bunch about it. We did 50 episodes in 2024, and we're going to keep it going here this year. So continue to watch for our emails and our social media and such, because as soon as we know stuff, we're going to make sure that you all are aware. Try to put out as much valuable and informational content as we possibly can. Why are we talking about this? CI is really being driven by the 45Z tax credit. That was part of the Inflation Reduction Act. It started on January 1. We are in the window where 45Z is in effect. The blender's tax credit did expire. It was not extended. So that was the blender's tax credit has been around for a long time, and they essentially had it sunset in order to replace the blender's credit with 45Z. And essentially what they did is instead of a biodiesel or renewable diesel producer just getting a straight up dollar per gallon based on the blending and the big focus on creating RENs and the renewable fuel standard, there's just this shift away from just tax credits based on production to tax credits based on your carbon intensity. So that's what 45Z brings to the table. In 45Z, the biofuel producers earn tax credits based on their carbon intensity score of the biofuel. So that's the key, is it's not just a flat credit, but it's based on the carbon intensity of the biofuel. What's laid out in the law is that as you reduce your carbon intensity score below a score of 50, you're in up to 2 cents per point per bushel. Works a little bit different for sustainable aviation fuel. It's based on a percentage, but overall, it's still looking at that magic number of 50, and getting below 50. The lower you get your carbon intensity score, the more financial opportunity there is. And that could be shared amongst the different players that are helping to lower that score. So if you've got a pipeline, that lowers your score. If you're doing other carbon capture, that can lower your score. If you're doing renewable energy or combined heat and power, that can lower your score. But we're here mostly talking about the farmers. Of the ethanol's CI score of around 50, the corn today has a score of 29.1, and that's coming from the Argonne GREET model. It's just a standard across the country. There are some county by county differences, but each of our bushels that we produced in 2024, they all have a CI score of 29.1. Our opportunity here and what Continuum has built out is helping farmers replace that score. When you are utilizing low carbon corn to produce low carbon ethanol, you lower the carbon intensity of the ethanol, thus being able to generate the tax credit. So that's what we're here talking about. Now, 45Z started on January 1. They did not delay it. They did not extend the blender's credit. They did not punt on any of this stuff. It happened. Like, it is here. It is going on. What we are still missing are the rules from the IRS. So, from a legislative side of things, the House and Senate, they passed the law back in August of 2022. They did not do anything in the lame duck and at the end of last year to punt on it, to delay it, to cancel it, to extend the blender's credit. They didn't end up doing anything in that continuing resolution. Obviously, it started being this massive document and it majorly got whittled down by the end. So they didn't do anything. So that means that legislatively, 45Z is still happening, which means the executive branch, the White House, and the departments underneath that, they have to get these rules written because they are the ones who have to implement the law, right? Legislative branch writes the law, executive branch implements it. So that means, since it's a tax credit, that means we need the implementation rules from the Department of Treasury. Department of Treasury overseeing the IRS, overseeing the tax system in this country. So the Department of Treasury ultimately needs to write the rules. The word is that they are going to be getting out skinny guidance before inauguration. Well, inauguration's on the 20th, uh, a week from Monday, and we still don't have any hard indication as to when we're going to get those rules. But they are still saying they're going to release skinny guidance in the preliminary rule. So I speculate that'll probably happen at the final hour on Friday the 17th, next Friday, because that'd be Friday the 17th. They go into the weekend. Monday the 20th, Trump gets inaugurated at noon Eastern. So anticipating, if they're going to wait till the final minutes, it'll be on the 17th. Now, there's a chance that it could happen earlier. We're watching very closely. As soon as there are some rules released, we are going to email out kind of a press release to everybody and host one of these Zoom meetings the next morning, right away at 8:30 in the morning the next day. I believe 8:30. Diana could correct me, but I believe 8:30 the next morning is what we're going with. And we'll allow everybody to come in and I'll share what I've learned from reading through the guidance and we'll hit the ground running. So anticipating the last day that the guidance could come out would be the 17th. So then the next business day, the 20th, we'll do the announcements and talk about the rules and be hitting the ground running. So that's Department of Treasury. Clock's ticking. Next week is essentially the final hours. My understanding is that the Department of Treasury is going to be pointing to the USDA rule when they make their rule. Department of Treasury doesn't know a whole lot about low carbon ethanol and definitely doesn't know a whole lot about farming. So instead, they're punting to utilize the USDA rule. The USDA did submit a rule about climate smart practices and carbon intensity quantification of feedstocks for biofuels. And I'm paraphrasing on the name of the rule, but the USDA submitted that rule to the White House for review on December 6th, a month ago. So the USDA rule is at the White House right now. It is in review. I don't know when it's going to get finalized. Hopefully this week. Next week, obviously, would be at the latest. Once again, maybe the USDA rule and the IRS rule all happen on the 17th, and they all happen at one time, and we got to read through all this stuff in a short order. That could happen. Hopefully, the White House publishes the USDA rule maybe this week. Then the Treasury has a week to get their rule out and submitted. So again, USDA rule submitted December 6th in White House review right now, could come live anytime. In that rule, it'll talk about the practices that would qualify. It is supposed to talk about no bundles, supposed to talk about a new GREET model that's coming out. We know that there's supposed to be a new Argon GREET model specifically for 45Z, also supposed to be coming out by the end of next week or before inauguration, I should say. Lots to happen. So we got to be following very closely. So again, in the USDA rule should be information about what they were gathering feedback on. Remember, last year USDA did written comment from the public. They also did verbal comment from the public in 3 different hearings. And they've been, of course, doing a lot of research internally and whatnot as well. So USDA publishing their USDA stuff in review, talking about practices, talking about the crops that should qualify. And it sounds like there's going to be additional crops right now in the GREET model is corn, soybeans, sugarcane, rice, and milo, sorghum. So very limited as it exists today, but supposed to be expanded crops there. And hopefully they also give some indication about book and claim versus mass balance. All should be in this USDA rule. So it's going to be huge indication as to how 45Z is going to work. Now, there is some major progress being made in DC. So some of my folks that are in DC are saying it's going to happen. Rules are going to be out by inauguration. Like they are making progress. Well, just Friday of last week, the 45V rule got published and finalized. Now that was the final rule. So it's a little different than 45Z. So 45V was an Inflation Reduction Act tax credit for clean hydrogen production. The IRS issued their preliminary guidance like a long time ago. I forget, it might have been even in 2023. So they issued preliminary guidance, and then they've been gathering feedback and stuff, and they published the final rule on Friday. I believe that would have been January 2nd, last week, second or third, whatever day that was. 300 some pages long, and again about clean hydrogen production. So finalizing one of the 45, categorically 45 tax credits. That was V. So hopefully now next ends up being Z. Now, again, IRS is going to issue skinny guidance. There will be a 60-day public comment period, is my understanding. Obviously, Trump's team comes in. There's the 60-day window to gather feedback. Trump's team comes in, they have to write the final rule. It's not going to happen within 60 days, probably not 90 days. It's probably going to take a while between this preliminary rule and the final rule. However, a lot of these type of credits, they can essentially function off of a preliminary rule until replaced, is my understanding. I don't know what exactly is going to happen, but at least this administration getting the preliminary guidance out allows for Trump's team to just kind of hit the ground running and not be starting with a blank sheet of paper, but they actually have some initial guidance. They have the ability to gather feedback from the public, and they're able to keep the process sped up and not lose more time. So all of that coming. I think those are a lot of the updates from DC. I also kind of a personal little insight. The part of the Inflation Reduction Act as well is there was a little mandate in there that the USDA is to set up a an advisory council around MRV, so measuring, reporting, verification, and basically a greenhouse gas measurement committee. And I've been selected to be on that committee. So it's a 2-year appointment in DC. I'll just go there every once in a while. I think 2 times a year or something like that, and then do some other virtual stuff as well. So exciting to be able to be at the table at some of these discussions and try to provide feedback. Try to provide some feedback on behalf of agriculture, on behalf of family farms like mine, and hopefully try to be a good voice for all of you in ag and biofuels. So excited to be part of that committee. Okay, so lots of updates there. More updates to come. Be monitoring our stuff, and we will reconvene everybody here in a longer form webinar whenever we have some more details, but could happen really soon. So keep your eyes peeled. Okay, let me get into some of the questions. If you have questions, feel free to toss them in the chat, and we will get to them. These are some of them that have come in with our when you register. There's a little question submittal kind of thing. Dean asks, what's the status of getting the regulations finalized for this winter? When do ethanol plants? When will an ethanol plants announce any of their participation and incentives? So status on getting some of the rules out there. Like I said, by inauguration is when we're supposed to have the rules. Now we don't know exactly how much 100% certainty is going to be tied to those rules and how skinny it's going to be. Hopefully, there's some safe harbor clauses in there and some a little bit more certainty for the ethanol plants. But I think there's some biofuel producers that are going to be ready to hit the ground running and make some announcements fairly soon after the announcements are made, hopefully within the weeks or month or two after the rules come out. Other ones, I think it's going to take a little longer. It's going to take them a couple months if they are further behind, haven't been doing pilot projects, haven't been in some of these discussions, might take a little longer. So but I do think that we've got a couple of our ethanol plants that we are buddies with, that especially if it's book and claim, they are going to be able to say, hey, if you've got verification from Continuum Ag, hey, we'd be interested in buying those certificates, or maybe from somebody else. I don't know of another I don't know of another proactive verification, but I'm sure others will come. But anyway, so rules come out by inauguration. I do think that some of the plants will be aggressive and will have some opportunity out there for farmers to get paid for their carbon intensity, as these ethanol plants are going to want to gobble up the CI certificates and gobble up the low carbon bushels. The key is there's a 5.4 billion bushel demand. There's about 5.4 billion bushels that are going into ethanol here in 2025. So 5.4 billion bushels. Every single one of those bushels has a score of 29.1 as it exists today. There's a small number of folks who know what their actual score is, and those small number of folks, small amount of supply, need to be connected with this large amount of demand to be able to offset those 29 scores and work things in the right direction. So I think there's going to be a first mover advantage for ethanol plants who are ready to go. And because the supply is small, the demand is large. So it's going to take some aggression if you want to lower your score as an ethanol plant. And I think our farmers that have been paying attention, and you all that are on here, hopefully will be an awesome opportunity to capitalize on this. Obviously, again, it boils back to I'm trying to put my own family farm in a position to capitalize on this, and my own grain that's in the bin still. We've tried to hold on to as much of our stuff as possible, keeping our options open, and try to put ourselves in position to monetize some of this as well as a small farm. So, but anyway, I think there will be some plants though that are going to be ready to rock and roll, and be pretty aggressive. All right, I got a whole bunch of questions. I need to stop talking so long. And again, put yours in the chat too if you want. Tim asks, can farmers qualify for 45Q by using their crops as a so-called pipeline and putting CO2 back in the ground in the soil through no-till and that kind of thing? No, Tim, good question, but 45Q is for permanent geological storage. So that is permanent storage in geological formations in the ground. I know that there's some companies that are trying to claim that they can create 45Q credits like on farm and from farmers. I think that is a bunch of BS. I think that is just asking for being slapped with fraud. I'm really scared about some of those efforts that have been pushed out there. 45Q is for permanent geological storage. The carbon that we sequester in the soil is not necessarily there permanently. That's the whole point of active carbon and of organic matter and of our soils being a biological system. We're not permanently storing that carbon. We are, as Dr. Jerry Hatfield talks about, we are extending the carbon cycle by getting that carbon from a more active, fast cycling state to a slower, more stable carbon cycle by getting more of that carbon into the organic matter form and into more stable soil organic carbon. So we are not permanently sequestering that carbon in our soils through no-till and cover crop, but we are getting the carbon cycle extended and thus getting a net carbon drawdown. And then that can be monetized, that can be quantified and monetized with 45Z. And you can't do both. You can't do 45Q and 45Z. 45Z is for transportation biofuel producers. 45Q is for permanent geological storage. Neither one can be directly applied for by a farmer. If there are people who get approved for that, hey, more power to you. I haven't seen it get done. I don't think that it would be possible to do it. And 45Z is where the opportunity is. All right. Javon, all of the buzz seems around no-till, cover crops, regenerative ag, carbon intensity, etc. Do you see government and or private groups providing financial incentives to endorse these new age ideas? Yeah, great question. So the question basically being, a lot of talk about, the government programs here. That's what we've, of course, mostly been talking about with 45Z. It is a government-backed tax credit program, but there's lots of companies that are doing private programs as well, not backed by tax credits, that are trying to push for these programs. We've liked working with Nestle in a partnership with Arva in their Scope 3 program. We've done that the last couple of years. It's limited to the number of acres, though. That's the problem, and why we haven't been able to really publicly push that out there and try to get a lot of folks enrolled. We're limited on the number of acres because a lot of these companies, they want to decarbonize, but they only have so much of a budget to actually do it. So therefore, they have to restrict the number of acres the number of farmers that can actually participate. So that's kept things limited. However, I'm pushing on 45Z so much because I think it's going to set a new precedent that these private companies can leverage when they go to try to meet their corporate sustainability goals. A precedent around how to quantify on farm carbon footprint, how to verify it, how to track it throughout the supply chain with a book and claim type of program, how to monetize it, like what is the actual value of that. 45Z sets a precedent here that's going to force all of these private initiatives to have to follow suit and have to change their programs to be competitive. But I think there'll be a tremendous amount of opportunity out there, and in an ongoing manner, even if 45Z falls apart, maybe Biden people do get it written, and maybe Trump comes in and they just cut the whole thing, right? Musk and Vivek, these guys come in and cut the whole thing. I'm not hearing any indication that that would happen. 45Z has very good bipartisan support, a lot of indication already about it being extended, about the rules being adjusted and stuff. So I don't think it is going to go away, but again, those private programs are going to continue to be there as well. So happy to chat on that more. Um, David in the chat, are elevators going to participate in the CI premium supply for those of us without on-farm storage? Great question, David. So this is where the difference comes in between the mass balance approach versus the book and claim approach. So let me talk about either one. Book and claim is where the corn, and I'm going to simplify corn, right? But keep in mind, every time I say corn, I also mean soybeans and sorghum. So in book and claim, the corn and the data, the CI score, they get separated. So the corn can go to the local elevator and goes in the normal supply chain. Doesn't even have to end up at an ethanol plant. It goes to the elevator, and then you can take your CI certificates, your data, and sell it to any ethanol plant, kind of like a carbon credit. So therefore, doesn't matter if you have on-farm storage. Doesn't matter if you don't have an ethanol plant really close to you. Doesn't matter if you maybe even utilize your corn to feed your own pigs, or if your corn goes to feed pigs like mine does. If it's book and claim, again, we don't know all the details, should know in the next week and a half. But if it's book and claim, you can sell the data to anybody and helps level the playing field, and all of us get to participate and helps to scale the program. If it's mass balance, then that elevator is going to have to go back to you as a farmer and ask you what was your data, what was your score, and they need to try to essentially buy that data from you to determine what is the weighted average or mass balanced CI score of all of that grain that they have bought and all that grain that they have on hand. Therefore, when that elevator sells the corn and sells the data to an ethanol plant, then they can pass along that CI score, and the ethanol plant could pay the elevator a premium for that corn and for that data, thus enabling the opportunity for the farmer to get paid. So now the elevator, of course, is going to get a chunk, and they should. They get a chunk today in the normal grain handling and grain supply, and they would want a chunk, of course, of the data here as well. So, but yeah, the if you already sold your corn, there's basically going to be kind of a look back to go and try to gather all that data. It's going to be a lot more expensive. It's going to be a lot more clunky, and it's going to therefore then change people's ability to participate. And there's a potential that your corn went to the elevator and that elevator doesn't sell to an ethanol plant. You might be kind of SOL and not able to participate, which is why we're pushing for the book and claim so much. In book and claim, the elevator is not necessarily kicked to the curb and not able to get a chunk of the money, not able to participate. If I was an elevator, what I'd be doing is something pretty similar to what Continuum is doing, actually, which is as an elevator, I would have done this a year and a half ago, like what we did at Continuum. I'd be going to all my farmers that I know I'm going to be buying corn from. I'd be helping them to quantify their carbon intensity score and walk them down the path of verification so that as an elevator, or as a co-op, we could pool together those CI scores. We would have a better certainty around the carbon intensity of the grain that we have. And then as a co-op or as a group, then we could turn around and market our low carbon corn to an ethanol plant. You'd have significant volume, and you'd have significant bargaining power, and you'd be able to significantly help your ethanol plant to decarbonize, and it win-win for everybody. So But yeah, basically, David, sorry for the long answer, but it's you need to be talking to your elevator and see what they are doing. If they're paying attention to these rules coming out, I'm happy to chat with them. The best opportunity for you though is if the rules are book and claim, should be good to go. We can go back and sell the CI certificates to any ethanol plant. We're working on all kinds of stuff in an open marketplace and being able to. I see a very clear future where these credits are going to be sold and traded on a board of trade. We've got some of those conversations going on, but um, but yeah, well, David, there'll be no more information coming here soon. Alan, happy New Year. Why would the ethanol plant get the tax credit under the book and claim if the low CI corn is not actually going to the ethanol production stream? Alan, great question. That's the whole concept of book and claim versus mass balancing. So what it does in mass balancing or in some kind of a actual connected supply chain, you have to have traceability from the farm, basically from the field to the on-farm storage to the elevator to the next, to the ethanol plant, and you've got to track this stuff all the way through and prove that you actually did get low carbon corn into producing low carbon ethanol. The problem is all of that corn was harvested 4 months ago and is already mixed and mingled, and there was no tracking done to it. All of that, a lot of that corn already went to an elevator. There was no tracking to it. There's not great systems there to be able to do that connectivity. Also, uh, you would have to be able to have that traceability, and it would limit farmers from participating. If they don't have an ethanol plant nearby, or a farmer like David who doesn't have on-farm storage, they'd basically be cut out of the program if it was a mass balanced approach. They may not be able to participate. Same as on the ethanol plant, if they don't have a lot of low carbon corn in their area because of lack of practice adoption or because of how the GREET model works today, you could majorly get some winners and losers because of some of those geographic constraints. Versus a book and claim approach is that the ethanol plant says, I'm buying X bushels of corn, let's call it 30 million bushels of corn. Today they're all 29.1. I don't know exactly where all this corn came from because it's a commodity system. There isn't systems in place today to actually track where that corn came from. So instead, they could buy basically a carbon credit or CI certificate from a farmer who created the low carbon corn. So for my example, right? Our corn this year ended up with a CI score of 2.3 as an average. So I've got CI certificates with a score of 2.3. We know how many certificates we created field by field, and that's what Continuum CI certification program is about, is verifying the amount of certificates that were created field by field. And then I can track through our marketplace, here's where the certificates were created, and I can sell those certificates to a aggregator or directly to an ethanol plant who can utilize my story as part of their decarbonization, since there isn't a good way to actually track the system today. They can use a mass balance to buy the asset and attribute it to their bushels when that time comes. So, but I think in the future, Alan, it'll be more of the actual transparent supply chain and actual connectivity. But for today, a mass balance, more of a carbon credit, or sorry, a book and claim, like a carbon credit approach, creates a lot more scale, a lot easier, and should return a better financial opportunity for the farmer because it's less expensive to do all that tracking and such. Devin, where do things stand in terms of practices used? Is it still a cover crop no-till nutrient management plan required in order to qualify? The bundle approach. Great question, Devin. So I communicated directly with some of the folks at USDA and some of the folks in the Biden administration, and they reassured me that there will be no bundles, which is amazing. We have been hammering on this, and a lot of other folks have as well. No bundles. They reassured me, no bundles. Now, again, we don't have the final rules. Some of these guys, they don't have the final 100% say so. There's a lot of moving parts there, but it has been reassured to me, no bundles. So instead, it'll be if you do use a cover crop, here's the reduction that you get. If you use no-till, here's the reduction that you get. If you use manure or compost, here's the CI reduction that you get. It may be for biologicals or stabilizers, nutrient nutrient efficiency products, whatever additional practices that they want to use. So it'll be more like how Continuum runs a farmer CI score in topsoil. We give you credit for each practice that you do, which is it's because that's how the GREET model does it. But yeah, they're saying no bundles, farmers being able to choose the practices that are best for them, and again, allow for more participation and properly incentivizing farmers to adopt more practices and to stack over time because the financial incentive is now finally there at a larger scale to encourage farmers to adopt the practices that are best for them and to stack and actually over time encourage more participation because it's not an all or nothing. But yeah, so Devin, we'll see, but uh, they're saying no bundles, which is awesome. Okay, I'm running out of time and I still got a whole bunch of questions here. Why don't we save them? Um, why don't we save them for next time? Really good stuff here. Good conversations as we wrap up. It is again, hopefully we get some more guidance from the White House and USDA stuff here very soon. Hopefully this week. We'll see. We'll let you know as soon as that happens, and we'll do one of these webinars the next business day, right away the next morning. And then that USDA rule is the first domino to fall to allow for the IRS rule to come out as well. So, still plenty of unknowns, but we're going to have clarity here very soon. And 2025 could be absolutely massive year for farmers. We need to have better, stable programs, stuff like this. Some of the the relief money and all that, like what they did at the end of last year, that's just obviously not long-term sustainable. And even a tax credit program, you can argue that's maybe not long-term sustainable either. But again, it's a precedent that this is setting that's going to change the entire world in how we do on-farm carbon footprint quantification or other sustainability quantification, and change the world in terms of how these uh, decarbonization initiatives are going to happen. David, yeah, good question. For those that haven't done CI certification yet, we'll be able to look back and certify for the 24 crop. Great question. And the answer is yes. So at Continuum Ag, we developed the first farmer owned verification program. So our business model is that farmers go to our software topsoil. You can get your CI score 100% for free. Our verification program is called CI certification, and we charge $7 per acre. In that program, we have to quantify and verify the CI score field by field, which means we have to document all the practices that you did, and you have to provide evidence. So, David, for your 2024 crop, you can still get verified, but go get your records organized here now. And we can help you do that, but go back and get your records around your fertilizer utilization and like receipts and shape files. If you used a cover crop, your receipts, your as applied maps, if you have any photos, that's great as well. Basically, every practice that you did, you have to prove that you did it. And we are getting that third party audited. We are working with a couple different auditors, but the main one that we've developed the MRV protocol with is called Eco Engineers. That protocol is done. We're the first ones, and as far as I know, the only ones that have developed an MRV protocol, which is the measuring or the measuring, reporting, and verification protocol for carbon intensity. And we will have our first audit complete on February 15th. So we developed a MRV protocol because Continuum has never done this before. So we needed kind of a practice run and to learn. So we developed an MRV protocol with Eco. We submitted tens of millions of bushels into that audit. It'll be done on February 15th. So if you're in that program, be sure to get your the last of your yield data entered. It's due this week, and be watching for your attestations that you got to sign. I'm seeing a bunch of them coming through, and our team has really been crushing it to get all that done. So David, and everybody else, the initial audit will be done on February 15th. I fully anticipate that there will be some updated verification protocols and stuff prescribed by the government. So we're going to have to integrate that. This has kind of been a practice run here, this first verification that we've done. We're going to have to integrate some of these new rules, get that rolled out to everybody, and we anticipate being able to do those look back audits throughout the whole rest of the year. Then after that, you can get signed up at any point at topsoil.ag. What I would encourage you to do is be monitoring these rules coming out, see how it is going to play, see how it's going to work, if it's going to be book and claim like we're hoping, or otherwise. And if it's book and claim and you're able to go back and get your data verified, we should have a lot more clarity on exactly the ROI that you can expect. So today it's we have to charge something. I have to keep the lights on. I have to pay my people and pay the bills somehow. So we're charging up front for it right now. Hope and go into battle with you to try to get some ROI. But once we get these rules, there should be a lot more clarity between what a farmer is actually going to get paid for, and then what is the cost of getting that data put together and getting it verified. And I think there could be a tremendous spread. So, but yeah, all of this is going to have to be looked back at to get verified because obviously there's very few people that have verified their practices and their carbon intensity for 2024. So it's gonna be a lot of look back, a lot of work to be done. That also brings me to all of your 2025 practices. Make sure you are documenting all of that in ultra detail. So any fertilizer or manure or cover crop or tillage that you already did this past fall, make sure you keep good records. If you are no-till, if you are reduced tillage, if you use cover crop, make sure you're taking pictures this spring out there in your fields where they're geotagged and timestamps and stuff, which your phone will do that for you. Just take pictures and document everything because we're talking full-blown audits and stuff here. We're talking significant financial opportunity and we're talking federal tax credits here. So, I mean, we have to go through uh, a lot of detail to make this fly and make this scalable. So anyway, all right, I've rambled long enough. I'm excited to be back. Thank you to you all, and again, Happy New Year. We will pass along more information soon. At a minimum, we'll be back here next Tuesday for another chit chat, but maybe we'll see you before then too. So thanks everybody. Have a great day.